morning, everybody, whether in the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. Got a nice Friday morning kicking off. How's your day?
I woke up. That's a start.
That's a win. Yeah.
In my world, there were no sports last night, and it was a buddy of mine's 50th birthday.
Oh, cool.
And so shout out to Michael Mason for making it 50 years. Good for you. You know what I mean? So I did something that I haven't done in a minute, and I drank.
Okay.
And not that I drank a tremendous amount, but I drank enough.
You drank enough. I mean, you were at the bar. You probably should have taken a peek at the game last night. It was, well, I guess there was two games last night, but
I was watching the one football game. I'm like, oh, there's football on television. How about that? And
yeah,
I
the
watched
Raiders.
the pick six.
Yep. That was Mendoza. And it's funny because he's struggling in the preseason, and I think that's actually good because
I agree.
The Raiders aren't gonna try and force him out early. They're gonna let him actually sit behind Cousins. So I actually think his struggles in the preseason are going to be good for him because I was worried that he was going to come out and look good, and then the Raiders were going to shove him out there and he was going to, struggle. Hey,
actually, when I watched the game and I saw the pass that was a pick six, the first thing that I thought of is that you're not going to go run him down and tackle him. That's not what your job is to do. Your job is to go right to the bench and start to look at the pad before you got to get back out there and throw another ball. And it was done on a play that we had talked about. I said that he was threading needles, and you can't thread needles in preseason, because those needle holes close up in the regular season. Well, it didn't even take to the regular season. You know what I mean? He literally tried to throw a needle, and it was, that hole wasn't there.
Yep.
And or he threw it a little too late. You know what I mean?
That was the thing. Is the timing was off. So I mean, it went right to the guy. So I mean, what do you do? But the good thing is it's preseason and it doesn't matter yet.
Well, that's exactly it. So, but that is an absolute rookie mistake, and those are rookie mistakes. And those, we're talking about practice, not a game.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about practice, and ultimately, that's what I thought about. That was like, oh my God, this is the right time to be making these mistakes.
But it does guarantee that he's not going to be the week one guy. Like what we've seen so far is it'll be Cousins. He hasn't shown us.
That's like announcing your plans to God. And I feel like that now, because you said that, Cousins is going to have some type of injury, and you're going to be stuck with Mendoza to start off the season.
Hey,
interestingly enough, Mendoza will be the first quarterback who was chosen number one who won't start game number one in
a long time.
It's been like 25 plus years.
Yeah.
That every other team has put their number one out there. And it makes me wonder, is this a Brady move? Is this Brady having a little bit of influence
maybe
on the team? I mean, like I said, I'm all for it. Like I said, I believe that's how. Like, I'm going to put these words a little differently because it's hard to actually say this and try to have a full understanding, because ultimately some of these starting quarterbacks have won championships now. That you win championships on the first contract. The rookie contract. That's what the tales have been saying lately. So that's the way the trend has been. However, I am a firm believer that great quarterbacks have to sit and find the speed of the game
Sure.
before they start to play. And you can learn that on the fly. But when you learn it on the fly, you create certain bad habits that
Well, I
also.
mean, and when you look at guys that started immediately, right? Um, Peyton Manning had an awful first year, right?
2 years.
Yeah, like ends up being one of the best to ever do it. But his first couple of years, could he have benefited from sitting? Probably. Not many of them have that Russell Wilson effect where he came in, he balled out, he gets to the playoffs his first year, wins a ring the second. Like that's not a normal occurrence. Obviously, he wasn't a number one pick, but I'm just saying, guys that immediately started, a lot of guys that immediately start struggle in the first year. I'm a fan of letting a guy sit. I know that the landscape of the NFL doesn't allow you to do that anymore because you just get fired immediately, but player development is a thing. And it unfortunately is something that kind of has been leaving the league because you can get fired so quickly now that, hopefully they're getting enough latitude there that he can sit and, Cousins will work. They're not in any danger of winning that division anyway. So I don't think there's that pressure to play the guy because we got to win. I mean, they're going to be the fourth team in that division.
Right. And I believe they also have a good number of picks in the top 3 rounds next year. So it's not the worst thing in the world to come back in and be like, all right, we're going to be 6-11 and we're going to have a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
I like I said, I agree with this logic. I am a firm believer that great quarterbacks need to let's talk about the best to ever play the game in a couple of different versions of this.
Sure.
Brady had to sit and watch the game from Drew Bledsoe.
Yep.
Joe Montana had to sit, and I'm not sure who the quarterback was that he had in front of him, but he had somebody in front of him. Yep. Aaron Rodgers had somebody in front of him.
Yep.
Brett Favre had somebody in front of him. You know what I mean? It's like Dan Marino did not.
No.
And Dan Marino also didn't win a Super Bowl.
He got there his first year or his second year, right? First or second year. So, but then never got back. Now, that had less to do with him and more to do with Miami never giving him a defense that could hold a lead. But still,
right.
But yeah, and then, obviously Steve Young sat behind Joe Montana and, there's tons of, even Mahomes, he sat behind Alex Smith, right? So even if you're going modern era, it works. Yeah, exactly. Steve Young had to sit. Exactly. So.
Well, Steve Young sat behind Joe Montana.
Exactly. Which he wasn't happy about. He actually contemplated trying to get off that team.
Well, and this is when the world was different.
Yeah.
And that's why Joe Montana wound up finishing his career in Kansas City.
Yep.
And helping create Marty Schottenheimer, which when we had the managers, guru, the guy who writes the books about all the different managers. When I said that's Marty Schottenheimer is the greatest coach to not ever make it to a into a championship because he just could not, for whatever reason, he could not coach the bowl game, the big game. He just would get out coached, and his team would get outperformed every time. And he brought like 3 different teams 2 playoffs and just couldn't get it done, which was it's amazing when you see that. And then you see like, Walsh, who, I mean, Walsh had brought teams to, as an assistant coach, the teams were going to Super Bowls and stuff like that, that they started the West Coast offense in Cincinnati. And ultimately, he had to go up against it in 1981. Then you have, that Joe Montana, I think that was his first Super Bowl against Boomer Esiason. You know what I mean? And both were running the West Coast offense. Walsh had played there, or would coach there, and had it going. That's where it originated. It wasn't the West Coast offense; it was the Cincinnati offense.
Yeah.
You think of the Chargers back in those days, like Dan Fouts, and it was the San Diego Superchargers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those times, it just everything was so different back then. The game was different. Now we have flag football.
Yes. What's happening, Steve-O? So we did have a signing. We didn't get to talk about it yesterday. Here in Seattle. Not a signing that I am excited about, but here we are, and Trayvon Diggs coming to Seattle. And so the funny thing is when you guys got Tariq Woolen, what was the comp I gave you? Diggs, right? A boomer bust guy that's out of position a lot. So for us to then go get him, obviously they signed Terrion Arnold a couple of days ago, who may or may not get a play. You signed Diggs. What that means to me is Josh Jobe and Pritchett are not stepping into that secondary cornerback role. That's what that means, is they're not elevating their game enough that they are on the market adding more cornerback depth, trying to figure out what it is they're going to do at cornerback 2, because Witherspoon obviously locked down CB1. Both the safeties are fine. You're looking at that spot. So that worries me a little bit that it looks like they don't feel like they have that guy locked in yet. And at least that's what the actions tend to indicate. They let a receiver go who may or may not have made the team. He's a rookie, would have been buried in the depth chart anyway. Appreciate the jewels there, Chad. But now, you have like 6 or 7 cornerbacks trying to fight for that other job. So that's the only thing that I've seen so far this offseason that I'm like, okay, now I have some pause for what it is they're seeing, because they keep targeting corners, despite the fact that we had, a few of them on the roster already. So, and I don't know, again, I'm not a believer in Diggs just because of the way he plays. Yeah, he gets some interceptions, although he hasn't since his ACL injury, but because he's out of position so much, they're going to be asking, Love or Emin Worry to really cover a lot of ground for him to play the way he does.
So I disagree with what you're saying. I feel that where you were thinking that they are having a problem in the number 2 spot, I see them having a problem in the number 4 spot. And I see that.
What, for your nickel?
The nickel and the dime. That's that you are looking that they see deficiency after you get past the number 2 spot. So you've got your number 3 cornerback, but there are times when you're going to need 4 cornerbacks and 2 safeties out there.
Sure.
And that Diggs, depending on his speed,
yeah,
depending on his speed, is actually a great number 4 or 3, cornerback.
If he's coming in as your nickel, that's fine. I don't believe that's what's happening.
Well, and I'll tell you the reason why I think that they can't. I mean, he'd have to earn his number 2 spot because that leg has got to be able to hold up.
Sure.
And so that's where I feel that at the moment. And the other thing is that you did save a lot of money. So you could come have the comps.
Oh, yeah.
This is in a better priced neighborhood, I guess, in that regards, in comparison to the guy that you just got rid of and we have. That being said, I kind of think I kind of look at this as a depth situation, and specifically because he is coming off of injury, and now he's picked up. You got him at a discount. And he can earn his way into the number 2 spot. I mean, he's got the ability to be there.
Sure.
So he could earn his way in there. So there, I look at this as your floor. You know what your floor is, and that is absolutely a good number 3 or number 4 cornerback.
Sure. With
a ceiling that says, hey, he could, when he gets streaky and he is seeing the ball the way he's supposed to see it, you can watch him grab interceptions for a short time. You know what I mean? I think that they learn how to work around him, and his hand play with wide receivers is bad. That's where he gets beat. He gets beat on the hand play, and then that creates a step because he gets caught up in the hand play.
Well, and that's why I say if he is going to be the number 2, then you're going to have Emin Warrior Love, depending on who's on that side at the time. They're going to have to shade his direction because he does have a tendency to be out of position. And, some of that leads to interceptions. Also, some of it leads to getting burned, which is, again, why I had that comp with him and Woolen. Obviously, he is much cheaper than Woolen at this point. But the problem is it's that boom or bust, right? Like you're either getting a special play or you're like, man, come on.
Speaking of Woolen, I mean, he is maybe going to be the number 3.
Yeah.
Possibly the number 4. He's
not looking good.
Well, it's so hard because I mean, these practices, they've been putting him up against AJ, and they've been putting him up in certain situations, and there has been a couple of toastings. You know what I mean? He's like, definitely black toast on one side. You know what I mean? Like it's been getting beat in a couple of those spots.
So he struggles a lot with a double move because he sells out so hard on some of the things, and he relies on speed to try and make up for bad decisions. If you get a nice crisp double move, he is smoked.
And I think that we saw one of those.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, it's like almost like a decleating of sorts, where the guy was just wide open after. It's like, ooh. But I mean, this is preseason and it is practice. And I mean, we saw Cooper DeJean also get burned. We also saw
you get burned, like it happens.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's practice. This is what it's supposed to be for. Listen, you get burnt by taking one extra step. That's all it takes. You know what I mean? Because one extra step is going to make the biggest difference when you're talking about that type of speed. I mean, everybody has been paying attention to, Quinyon Mitchell versus AJ Brown. And and they've only been up against each other like once or twice.
Mhm.
And those are long ball plays, and Quinyon Mitchell has had the best of him. Now, they're saying that Quinyon Mitchell is having a good camp, not a great camp. You know what I mean? I'm okay with that. That just tells me that he doesn't feel like balling out. Yeah, good camp is okay for me because he is the number 1 to number 4 cornerback in the entire league. You could argue whoever is the number 1 cornerback, but he's the best. He's in that top 4, top 5.
Well, the other thing with having a good camp instead of a great camp, a good camp means to me that it's sustainable as you move into the regular season. When you see somebody that's just having an unbelievable preseason, you're like, oh man, there's going to be a significant drop off when the season starts, because, you know, it's like having a career year the year before. The odds of you following that up with another career year is extremely low, right? So if you're just like, everything is perfect in the preseason, it's like, man, there's gonna be a lot of mistakes once a year kicks off. And it's not just like hating on a player. That's just what we've seen in football forever.
Right. It's again, I don't need them. I don't need my team to play their best football in September. You cannot win a Super Bowl in September. You have to be able to play all the way into February. So I want January, December, January, and February to be the best football that I see from my team. So I'm okay with just okay. That's why I don't ever pay attention. People ask me, well, how come you don't ever go to these preseason games? Because I have no interest whatsoever. It's always, it doesn't matter to me because there is no need for me to go to these games.
Well, especially because teams aren't like, they want to win, but they're not trying to win. They're trying to see different things, right? They're trying different alignments out. They're trying to see what they have in depth positions. So as much as you want to go to these games and see them play football, that's not really what they're doing. Like, there's only a handful of teams in the league that are going in to win preseason games. And like the Ravens, they're like, we are absolutely winning every preseason game we can. We like to win these games. A lot of other teams are like, yeah, I just want to see what we got in this guy that we got in the 6th round. He's probably going to get barbecued all day, but we want to see if he's going to make it past our first round of cuts. And so, I mean, because they take such a different approach team to team, yeah, it's tough to want to go to a preseason game unless there's just, you know, some history you like. Like, I always like going to a preseason game if it's the Seahawks and the Raiders, because I grew up where they were in the same division and I loved that rivalry. So I will go to that game because you don't play them in the regular season all that often. So, but we used to play them every preseason. So I'd go to a preseason game to watch the Hawks and the Raiders because it was a fun matchup. But if you're going there expecting to see good football, you're about to be disappointed.
I mean, our preseason always seems to be against our third game will always change, but it's usually the Ravens and the Jets. Those two teams are always our preseason opponents. And then now that, it's been New England because of the friendship between owners of Jeffrey Lurie and Kraft. They are good friends, and plus Jeffrey Lurie is got Boston roots, so that's always the reason to go up there. It's either them, sometimes it's Pittsburgh. Like when we're not playing Pittsburgh, we happen to play Pittsburgh this year. Every once in a while, I guess it could be like another team, like we could play Carolina or Cleveland or something like that. But but ultimately, it's always the Ravens and it's always the Jets.
So our first two were always They were always kind of rotating. Our third one used to be the Raiders all the time. And now they pretty much are always cycling through. But
right. Well, once the Raiders moved away from Oakland, because I mean, in theory, you're not trying to go very far. Like, so my thought is that if I'm in Seattle, my preseason is against Denver.
Well, no, I mean, we had the Cowboys. So we had the Cowboys, we have the Titans this weekend.
Travel. Well, I mean, if they're coming to if they're coming to Seattle, but if
we're in Tennessee. We're in Tennessee.
Travel. That's a lot of travel.
I mean, we're always one of the most traveled teams almost every year anyway. So I don't think they really care, because whether you save one game in the preseason for traveling, I mean, we rack up the miles every year anyway. The only time that we don't end up being the most traveled team is if you end up with a team that has 2 overseas games. That's usually how Seattle doesn't have the most travel miles every year. So,
well, I also my expectation is that when you're playing the AFC West, that makes a big difference too. Like, because you could play. I mean, I guess you could play the NFC North and the AFC West, because those flights are a little different. You're just going to Minnesota and Chicago or Green Bay, which is only, I mean, it's still 1,800 miles, because Montana and North Dakota are big, states.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, of course, we're just sequestered up here in the Northwest, right? So no matter where we go is some travel. So
yeah, I'm going to jump off of something really quickly and just talk about Seattle for a half a second.
Okay.
What's the story with Boeing? I'm hearing is Boeing about to leave Seattle?
So they talk about it all the time. So they've been about to leave Seattle for 30 years. And there's even been a few times where they've moved some plants out of state. But no, there's just contract negotiations again. So we go through this every few years, and when the union redoes their contracts, so they always threaten to leave, and then the city gives them more tax incentives and whatever. It's a game. If they do ever pull out, I mean, I guess it is what it is. But the way Boeing operates anyway is always kind of rough, because they'll go through a ton of hiring and things will be good for about a year, and then they'll lay off a third of their workforce to try and hit fiscal numbers. And so it's always this seesaw of, craziness with Boeing. But would it hurt the Northwest if they left? Sure. But it's not like it was back in the day where they were the largest thing here. Now with, all of the tech that's here, would it hurt the area? Sure. Would it be detrimental like it would have been 30 years ago? Absolutely not. So, and yeah, the headquarters left years ago. Absolutely, Rob. So yeah, I mean, they've slowly been moving out of the state anyway.
Right.
And this is just them threatening again.
Right. I ask that only because, I mean, I am right down the street from Boeing too. Yep. It's of all the places in the world that we are both living, Boeing is has a huge footprint here. You know what I mean? So it's that I would say that there's a good amount of the people that have come in the bar that have spent a lot of time at Boeing. Boeing does employ a lot of people around here.
Well, and the people that work there stay there.
Yeah, they don't ever leave unless you get fired. You got to be really, and you got to be really bad to get fired, because
you got to be really bad for a long time. Like,
right. The unions are strong out of Boeing.
Yeah.
So, but ultimately, it's it just I heard something the other day about that, which makes sense when you're saying, hey, it's contract negotiation, and It's like there's only a couple of companies that build submarines.
Yep.
Boeing is one of them. You know what I mean? You go to webuildsubmarines.com and you realize that will tell you, hey, you can work here or you can work here. And it's
Yep.
Boeing or Lockheed Martin, and it's in two different coasts. But
Yep.
I mean, I just because I'm hearing whispers over here
Mhm.
about what's happening with Boeing, and it makes more sense to me that, hey, that what it is that this is when you hear about, oh, we may have to move and stuff like that, that's political crying.
Yes.
So now I get it.
Yeah.
It
Well, and
makes
that's
more
why I
sense.
say we've been watching this for 30 plus years. You get this every few years. Um, the it was probably 15 years ago now, or more, maybe almost 20 years ago now, that they really started. They moved some stuff. They moved a plant out of Washington because of the way that the city was handling it, and negotiations had fallen off. So I forget which city or which state they moved to, but they moved the um, one of the bigger jet production facilities out of the state, and then, like Rob said, the headquarters moved. Um, so like the city has forced their hand a little bit at times. I don't think they'll do it again. I think it'll end up being fine, but you never know, right? All you need is somebody with a little bit of a hot head at the moment, and all of a sudden companies move. So you never
Well, and
really
not
know.
only that, I mean, I'm not going to go by the different colors of red or blue up there, but it's
Mhm.
ultimately it's going to depend on how much of the pendulum swinging for defense contracts. That's really that, like,
Yep.
ultimately right now Trump's in office and he is pro USA, so the money for defense is going to be there, and that's not something he's going to start to dismiss, but you know kind of like the Dodgers, the US is you know
In
in
some
debt.
trouble.
Not
That
as
is
much
for
as the
sure.
Dodgers, though, because that rabbit hole is getting deeper and deeper. That's going to they're going to keep that completely under wraps until November,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
because they if the Dodgers do not win this, the Dodgers are going to be there's two ways that this is going to go.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to come in and save them. Somebody is going to come in and spend $15 billion to buy
Yes.
that franchise.
Oh,
Uh,
that's
and,
what's going to happen. Is someone
uh,
with stupid money is going to come in, and they're going to take over and win a ring the first year they own the company. Like that's what it'll be.
well, I don't look at it like that, because this is I look at this as, all right, you are going to take over an establishment, and I'm going to say
Yeah.
just like a bar, just
Sure.
to make this very simple.
And
And this bar has operated for 40 years and has been given certain grandfather clauses because it's been the same ownership for 40 years. The
mhm.
moment that you take it over, all those grandfather clauses go away, and now you're stuck to have to revitalize things. Some people don't understand that.
Yeah.
It's like there's a bar that has just been sold around here that's going to have to deal with that. And, I don't think they understand. They're like passing all their inspections and everything's fine. I'm like, yeah, the township hasn't come in yet. The moment the township comes in, they're going to get their pound of flesh. It's going to happen. And you
Yeah.
have to be prepared for that. Same situation here. Uh, the Dodgers, the moment they get sold to any entity,
Sure.
whether it's even full sale to the corporation and not the person, the MLB is going to come for their pound of flesh, and they have to now because they're forced to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it force their hand? They have to do something. No, it doesn't squash the cap discussion. That's happening either way.
Yeah, and I think that even them losing actually doesn't. It still exacerbates it. Because ultimately, what it tells you is that it doesn't matter how much. Because if the Phillies are the team that beats the Dodgers, and then the Phillies go out and win, and we still have a payroll of close to 300 million, and you have most of these teams in Major League Baseball only spending somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 to 170, that's a huge disparity of an additional 130 million. Now, it's not 500 million, but there's a piece of me that believes, like I said, I don't feel that because you own a team that you have to make money. So, listen, if you want to play with the big boys, hey, listen, they used to say that the sport of kings was horse racing. And the reason why it was the sport of kings was because you lost money more than you made it.
Yep.
That's that you do not make a lot of money in horse racing.
Yep.
You know, it's not there. If you have some horses that win, you're making money on the back end because then they're studding.
Well, that's the thing. That's where you're making money.
But you need to win, and that's not simple. It's not simple. You gotta do a lot, and you gotta hope for a lot. You need a lot of luck. There's a lot of luck that's involved with horse racing over the first couple of years. But
yeah, exactly. The money's in the breeding. Absolutely. And to answer your question earlier there, Rob, Price's injury isn't really a big deal. So it was just muscle soreness, and they were giving him some rest, basically. So nothing major as of yet. If you're talking draft order, fantasy wise, I mean he's a rookie. That's a gamble. I don't know what to tell you. You could pick him depending on how high other people in your draft are. I mean, you could take him in the third.
I was going to say fourth round.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you have him slated for the fourth round and he gets chosen before that, he was taken early.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be the bell cow to start is the thing. So early in the season, he's going to get the most amount of his opportunities because Charbonnet isn't coming back until week 6 or 7. At least that's what the talk is. So to start the year out, he's going to have to be the guy because the next guy on your, on that depth chart is Helani, which, maximized his touches, but he's not beating Price out for the spot. So, I mean, third would probably be good. Fourth would be good. But it also depends, like you got to know who you're playing, right? Because every fantasy league has guys that, sometimes pick in a different way. Like I remember, generally you're picking quarterbacks in like the third or whatever. And I was in one a handful of years ago that all the quarterbacks went in the first round. So it just, you never know. So sometimes
that's a little ridiculous, but
sometimes knowing who you're playing matters too.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I am never taking a quarterback in the first round. In fact, there are times when I have waited to take quarterbacks not until like the 12th or 13th round, because realistically, once you get past a certain portion of quarterback, they're all scoring the same.
Yes.
So you have better luck. I have better luck picking defenses. And ultimately you could go by the week-to-week defense on who you think is going to play pretty well against another team.
Oh yeah, matchups every time. Yeah.
So, yeah, because you never wanted to pick a team that was playing against Cincinnati or even Dallas.
Yep.
But never take Chicago's defense.
Drafted Dart and Prescott. That is interesting. Like Dak's gonna have some yards. Dart, man, you're just hoping he survives.
Yeah, not me. Not what I'm doing there. But I'm never taking Dak. I'm not interested in the
Just
points.
on principle.
It's just because there's too much going on there. There's just too much going on. I want to be able to I just want to be able to take a quarterback. Dak has had too many weeks where he scores 6.
Yeah.
And then will score 46.
No question. Yeah.
You're hoping that they're losing by a lot because then you're going to get a lot of points. But most of the time, he's the cause of the reason why they're losing by a lot because he's thrown 2 interceptions.
Yes.
So.
And one of them's a pick 6, which is a real problem. But
well, he doesn't get charged the 6 points for that. So
yeah.
That would be awesome if they did, though.
I mean, they should.
A pick 6 and they get -6 points for that because it's like -8 in total. Hey, you threw the interception and they scored 6 points.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? And there's been a lot of talk about these new fantasy leagues that the loss league. You get the points if your team wins. If your team loses, no points from that player.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. And then it makes me wonder, well, what happens if they tie? Because ties are still a thing.
Yeah, I feel like everybody loses because the fans certainly do. So
yeah, it's definitely a kissing your sister moment,
right? Like hard pass. Yeah.
Well, I think Saquon Barkley is going to be a good choice this year. I think he gets somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,400 to 1,600 yards. So you're going to get that a little bit. If your fantasy football league gives a bonus for over 100 yards, I think that's going to be helpful for you because I think you'll have 10 games over 100 yards. That beyond that, James Cook is hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just he's got other things. I was listening to Cam about Henry.
Okay.
And I started to do a little bit more research on that, as I felt like that he got dinged up a good amount, and he did get dinged, and when you look at his production, there were again, it was the coaching. The coaching chose not to use him at certain things.
Every time he had 16 or less carries, they lost.
Right. And sometimes you have 16 or less and have over 100 yards and they'd still lose.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because if he had 16 or less, they lost almost every time. And if he had more than 20 touches, they won almost every time. And I don't know why everyone on the outside can see that and that coaching staff couldn't figure it out. Like it didn't make any sense to me.
Who is going to be worth anything besides Saquon on the Birds? Dallas Goedert is going to be a great tight end. I think that you're going to see a lot of production out of him. I also think that Devonta Smith is going to get, I think, about 1,200 yards receiving. There was another guy that has been making, I'd have to pull him up and find out exactly.
And I'll just go ahead and throw this out there. Brad, no, Hurts is not going to be the league MVP.
Well, I will tell you this. If if by week 8, if he's in the conversation, everything that I said is coming true, and that we'll have the division by week 13. Week 14. You know what I mean? I think that's a possibility when it comes to that type of stuff. But I'm looking to see who is.
I would be curious to see what the line is for that. And you can look on Bet Us by using the QR code on the screen. Use it up to 125% of your first 3 deposits, 10% bet guarantee. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the line is, actually. I would imagine it's not a great line for him to win the league MVP.
Look at, as a late pick in your fantasy drafts, Dontavian Wicks.
Okay.
He is somebody who is going to have, nobody's heard of him. He was picked up for a 5th and a 6th rounder at the draft this year, away from whoever he played for last year. I want to say he played for Green Bay. And last year he had 7 games started, 46 targeted, 30 receptions for 332 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This guy is 6'1", 206 pounds. He was a 5th round pick out of the Packers, and he has been opening the eyes of a lot of people in the practices. So that would be one of the, you could maybe take a late flyer on him.
Randomly throw him in the flex.
Yeah, that's going to be one of those situations, because there is going to be, you could say that it's Mekhi Lemon is going to be the number 2, because he was the number 1 draft pick and such like that. But I believe that he's going to take a second to figure it out. Again, it's rookies in the NFL aren't always Justin Jefferson.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it's just not that. So I think that it's going to take him a second to get accustomed to the NFL, and then he'll start to do well. Obviously, Devonta Smith is going to be the number 1 receiver, and I just look at him like Steve Smith. That's just there. He always knows how to get open, and he always knows how to come down with the ball, and that's going to be him. But the number 2 guy is going to be interesting to find out who that's going to be, and I think that you're going to get a lot out of Dontavian Wicks.
All right.
There's your 13th round pick.
Brad, that's interesting. You drafted 3 defenses. How big is your roster slots to be able to carry 3 defenses? That seems crazy to me.
Yeah. Broncos defense is what I would go with initially. That's who you're going, unless the Eagles are playing against a team that's going to give up a lot of sacks. I am interested to see how the Eagles defense starts.
Yeah.
That's going to be, I feel that the Eagles are going to win games in the beginning of the season because of their defense. That you're going to see the offense score somewhere between 20 and 27 points, somewhere in the mix of that. And I feel that we're going to need the defense, that the number is going to have to be under 20. We keep the other team under 20, we'll win the game.
Sure.
That's in the beginning of the season. I think towards the end of the season, I think that number should be somewhere around 16. That 17 points could win a game. That's what I want. I want my defense to hold the opposing team to 16 points or less.
Yeah.
That's how Denver won last year. I mean, it was like they, the reason why they were able to do so well was because, I mean, he got creative about the 2-minute drive.
Yep.
And he was able to be successful in those last couple of minutes.
I mean, that's how Seattle did too, right? Like the defense dominated. There were a couple of games that, were shootouts, generally within the division. But the rest of the time, the defense was locking everybody down. So, in fact, when you look at last year, almost every team that did anything had a great defense.
Right. Well, defense wins championships. That's the way it works.
Yep.
So, but having 3 defenses
that's wild to me.
Yeah, like I have barely 1 defense. I'm always like the defense is always my last pick. I don't care what defense I get started off with because for week 1, I am already getting rid of that defense and choosing a defense that I want for who I think that they're going to be playing against. That's that.
If I can land one of the dominant defenses, then I'll kind of hang on to them. But generally, I do exactly that. When I did play, is I would look at the matchups and who was available, be like, oh, this defense is going to dominate today. And I would change defenses almost every week.
Right. If you're not paying for waivers, sometimes they make you pay for $1 per waiver or $5 a trade and such like that. Our league, it's just like, hey, it's $125 to play. And we divvy it up at the end, and there's barely enough money to make your money back because who cares? That's really what it comes down to. It's just nobody cares. We're just all busting each other's balls because it's called the Ish Talking League, and I said that's radio friendly.
Yes.
So yeah, it's fantasy football, and we will do fantasy football segments this season where we'll kind of say we'll probably do them. We have our pickups on Wednesday, so really Tuesdays would be good to kind of do the fantasy football segment on who you should pick up on the Wednesday wire.
Yeah, especially since there's some Wednesday games. You wouldn't want to wait any longer anyway. So,
well, I mean, there's only 2 Wednesday games, right? Well, I mean, we start the season off on a Wednesday, which is ridiculous. And
that it is. Speaking of defenses and teams that don't have any, we got Joe Burrow saying this is the year.
Tired of saying next year. This is it. Life is too short to keep pushing things down the road, and I'm trying to instill some urgency and some intensity in everybody to go and be great every day and try to go make it happen.
Do you feel like it's got to be now or never this year?
That's how I'm treating it, for sure. That's how I'm treating it.
That sounds like he's about done. Actually, I look at that at a different way. Listen, it's hard to be motivation for the other side of the ball.
Sure.
And this is going by the adage that the difference between the best defense in the league and the absolute worst defense in the league are small. And that difference is very small. That somebody that if you were to get the motivation for some of these players to play better.
I agree. I would say over the last 2 seasons, that gap has been big.
Well, especially because Cincinnati is great at showing you how bad their defense could be.
Yes. Them in Dallas, right? Like they had 2 absolutely explosive offenses and defenses that couldn't stop anything. So normally I agree. The top and the bottom are generally, not that far apart. Over the last couple of years, the top and the bottom have been really far apart.
Yeah, but so I agree with you there, but I will tell you that number 26 and number 4 were not. That any like
Sure.
27, 28, 27 to 32, those defenses were horrid.
Yes.
You know, and then the top 4 or 5 defenses were great. But when you are number 5 or
Mhm.
number 6, we'll call it, and then and you're 25 and
Yeah.
26, that window is not far from each other. You know, in most cases, you're seeing the difference between the number 6 defense is letting up 19.4 points a game,
Mhm.
and the 26 defense is letting up 22.1 points a game.
Yeah.
You know, and that those 3 points make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
So, you know, and then you had the Cowboys that were letting up 36 points a game, and the Cincinnati Bengals that were letting up 32 points a game. That they were losing games 45-44.
No, and that's my
Yes.
point. Is that the gap the last 2 years has been insane because
Right.
your best teams were limiting teams to 16 points. So I mean, you're talking about twice the amount of points, which is wild, especially for offenses that were putting up crazy numbers. So,
And I believe this is going to be an offensive year.
okay,
Last year, I felt that, I mean, you know, again, let's take out the bottom 4 defenses, the worst
Yeah.
4 defenses. And really, you can take out the bottom 2, which was Dallas and Cincinnati. That felt like that was whatever. But really, Chicago also had a terrible defense that they were able to just outscore. They were the Cincinnati antithesis, that they were able to win the games that Cincinnati couldn't win.
for sure.
Because Cincinnati always was scoring too quickly at the end of the game and gave the other team enough time to go run down the field and score again. So,
Well, and then some of the ones that the Bears lost, like they had one and then they did a dumb play and let the other team win.
right.
Like, you know, so there was definitely some of that. And yeah, we'll end up, you know, doing picks on the show. Or if you happen to watch, you know, some of my other stuff, I actually put out my picks for the week. So, yeah.
There we go. In fact, that's what we'll do every Friday. We'll make picks for the week and we'll see who wins between us. We'll keep score. How about
So,
that?
I mean, we should probably do it Thursday. That way it includes Thursday Night Football.
No.
No? All right.
No. I say we do it just for the Saturday and Sunday games. Let's and Monday. You know, like that's what we do. We let Thursday be Thursdays because Thursdays are so. I mean, lately they have been better games, but I'll be honest, I don't. Anything can happen on a Thursday because it's they just played on Sunday. What's going on Thursday? You got to travel and stuff. I don't think that's fair. So no.
Last year actually had some good games on Thursday.
I
was,
agree. Especially
it
like
was
after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, like it was a nice change. Like there was a good lineup of games last year. And it had been years since we had a good Thursday night slate.
Right.
And you can tell that by Al Michaels, who does not care anymore in his career and isn't on network TV, so he can say what he thinks. And the amount of times he's calling games horrible and trash is first hilarious and true, but also let you know he's just like, yeah, I'm just mailing it in from here.
Right. But he's getting some good games now, so
Yep.
so we'll discuss that as we go. But I think that we should let's just keep track of Sunday games. You know what I mean? That's not even worry about Monday. We're just picking Sunday games, and we'll keep track of who wins and who loses between us.
Yeah, we can do just Sundays. That works. But Brad, I mean, if you're interested, I do a pick'em show. So there is that. That being said, we got to get out of here. We will see y'all next week. If you've been watching along on YouTube or any other platform, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our stuff to you. And of course, if you're listening on 97.3 Blue Jazz coming your way, getting you ripe and ready for the weekend. Enjoy the games. Take it easy, everybody.
Peace.